This is why getting out of debt is so important. Because, and I will tell our numbers, when we were in debt, we had 2 car payments and we had a student loan. Just those 3 things plus a couple of credit cards, nothing, the credit cards weren't super high.
They weren't out of control.
We didn't even have 5 figures on credit cards. So I think we had less than 6,000 or 7,000 on it between us. And so it wasn't a ton. But we had over $1,200 a month in payments. And so when we're talking about if you pay off the debt and then you can save even just
$1,200 a month?
Yeah, $1,200
$1,000 a month?
$1,200 a month is $14,000 in a year. So that's a pretty good emergency fund right there. Exactly, right? Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
the podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young, and we're so glad you're joining us today.
All right, y'all, let's get into it.
Hey, babe, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited because it's the weekend. And I kind of...
It's the weekend.
I need the minute, okay? I need the minute. I don't know why. I do feel like I'm going to have some stuff that I got to get done, but I'm excited.
It's funny. Sometimes I feel like we living for the weekends, and I want every day to be the weekend.
You ready to retire?
Well, I don't know if I want to retire, but I want every day to feel like it's the weekend and not just be working for the weekends.
Sounds like retirement to me.
I mean, I'm going to be doing something, but, it's like, I hear about people retiring at different ages. I'll be like, you know what? I think I need to rethink what I'm doing. Just because I used to feel like I like working. I like what I do. I'm going to keep doing it. But, yeah, I'm going to keep doing it. But, I'm starting to rethink some things just in life.
Well, I feel like the government has given us a reason to do that.
I think the government has made a lot of people rethink a lot of things.
Yes, rethink their whole entire life.
Yeah, because for one, like, honestly, I mean, a 44-day governmental shutdown, that was crazy.
Yeah, and I knew that the challenges that people experienced is something that we really needed to talk about. And so I think for a lot of people, we need to put this in perspective. This is a whole month and a half.
That is a month and a half.
Of no paychecks. So if you think about that.
Of no paychecks.
Yeah. So I think, like, when you think about what your monthly expenses are.
Your monthly expenses.
Why you keep... why? I think you try to drive the point home. Is that what this is?
Yes.
So, but
I just want to bring it home to people.
I know.
Like you say 44 days, but that's 3 paychecks for a lot of people.
Do you know how much a month's of expenses are? And do you have a month and a half expenses set aside in a savings account? So we typically say 3 to 6 months of expenses. 3 to 6 months. Right.
Well, I typically say 6 to 12 months because you never know what life is going to deal you.
Right. But when we were on our debt-free journey, that
was 3
to
6 months.
That was, yeah. Even right after that, it took a long time for us to get to the place where we were thinking 6 to 12 months.
Yes.
But the whole point is most people don't have enough in savings to cover $1,000 emergency, let alone a month and a half.
I think more specifically, isn't it like 60% of American households, if they have a $1,000 expense, it's something that they don't have the capacity to cover.
Exactly. And so that is what I was thinking about when the shutdown was occurring and how people likely were unprepared financially.
Yeah.
Worried about how they're going to, make ends meet. also still needing to work, still having to actually do the work, but not getting the paycheck when they needed it.
Yeah.
And if you had money in savings, probably using it in order to just put food on the table.
I think there's a lot of financial lessons that people will walk out of this shutdown having learned.
I hope they do.
And I hope that people take the time to say, you know what, not me. This isn't going to happen to me in the future because, success is when preparation and opportunity meet. And I wouldn't call this a quote unquote opportunity, but if you're prepared and this presents itself, this seemed to me like a negative opportunity.
I think
you could be successful.
I think it's an opportunity to do better.
Yes. Yeah,
so to learn from this and do better next time, right?
Yeah,
so don't get caught. Listen, don't get caught with your pants down next time, right?
No way.
So, but 3.5 million people actually were affected financially, and specifically without a paycheck. There were so many other things that were going on during this shutdown that affected people. We are talking about those who went without the paycheck.
Yeah.
And I
think it's tough though. Like even for the people, they went without paychecks, but then people were expected to work too.
I know.
Like
both and.
Right. Like we think about like air traffic control and TSA and like all the myriad of government jobs that people are essential.
Yeah.
Like we know the air traffic control. We know that whole situation, the impact that it impacted everyone. Like private business, government, it affected everybody because people fly and travel corporately for personal leisure. It affected all that. So there was no person that potentially wasn't impacted by that, because I know I had some trips that were scheduled and I was like, oh man, I kept checking and refreshing my flights to make sure they weren't canceled. And I was at the airport a little bit earlier than I probably had to be because I didn't want to be standing or waiting in lines. And my flight, I got there and got the pre-check. It was like 5 people in front of me. Yeah. So I was like, okay.
But a lot of people didn't experience that. So I want
a lot of people had
issues.
Yeah, extremely long waits.
Yeah.
And frustration and canceled flights. And
so I want to talk about why emergency funds are so important. When I coach with people and help them with their finances, I like to break down what an emergency really is and why the emergency fund is so important. And
you talk about what it is. I'm gonna talk about what it's not.
Okay, so it should cover things like unexpected car repairs, medical issues, an emergency in the family where you have to purchase a ticket and fly to go see somebody.
Yeah.
These are things that fall outside of what you plan for in your budget. And you don't have extra funds close by in some underneath the mattress or something, and you got to go to the emergency fund, right? So
I hope people not still putting money under the mattress.
You know what? You got money. It's just not under the mattress. You got money at home.
Yeah, that's different though.
I mean, it's the same difference.
No, it's
at the house.
Well, that's just cash on hand, and it's in a secure location that people can't get to.
My granddaddy didn't put money under his mattress. It was under his pillow along with his pistol.
Yeah, well, okay, but all right, carry on.
But it's what it is it's close by. So in the event of an emergency, they didn't have to depend on the bank, right?
Right.
So when we're thinking about an emergency, it is these things that fall outside of what you planned to happen in those 30 days. And typically, the emergencies that I mentioned, a car repair, even a car accident, medical, having an emergency to go see family, things like that, all of those things typically are going to be way less expensive than not having a paycheck for a month and a half, right? The loss of income is the largest emergency that a person is going to have. And so loss of job or loss of the income from the job is the largest emergency. And so it's interesting that I teach that and help people to understand why it's so important to have 3 to 6 months of expenses. But we just got a real life lesson on that.
Well, look, I'm going to tell you what it's not.
What is an emergency fund not?
It's not a sale at Nordstrom. It's not Black Friday is here. Everything is on sale. I need to buy more stuff.
It's also not, oh, I want to go on this trip.
Right. It's not any of that.
It's not
I don't feel like cooking, so we got to go out to dinner. That's not an emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people can try and make a lot of things into an emergency that's not an emergency. Those people who went without paychecks, they knew and felt what an emergency really was because you couldn't pay your car note, you couldn't pay your car insurance, you couldn't go out and dine out, your cable bill, your internet. I mean, a month you typically can make it through before they will start to turn those services off, but still you're a month behind. You need to get back pay so you can just catch up.
Now, I did see on certain sites that we do business with, so like our mortgage company, for instance, they had a banner that said, if you've been affected by the government shutdown, let us know and we're going to figure out how to help. So some people were getting some relief by being able to
appreciate businesses that were doing
that. They would allow you to skip a payment. They don't want you to get in the rears. That's why when you actually have an emergency where you need the funds from your emergency fund or you're trying to figure out how to make it work, the biggest thing that I can tell you to do is don't sit in silence. Call them and negotiate and see if you can get like for some car payments, you can get one car payment to go to the very end of the loan so that you can essentially skip a car payment and not have to catch up.
It's better to do that than to have a derogatory impact on your credit report.
But people don't know that they have that available to them because they are afraid to call and they're afraid to inquire and get answers. So that's the thing that I would say.
That's another example of don't move through life scared. Like all you can do is ask.
Yeah, all they can do is say no.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the whole thing is when we're talking about an emergency fund, being smart with it. The way I like to say it is protect the emergency fund. Like you said, don't use it for stuff that's not an emergency, and make sure that if you end up having to use it, you put the money back.
Look, and I saw, it's like every night on the news, they're talking about food pantries and just the basics, like because the SNAP benefits were halted and people, like that's a basic need is to be fed and housed and, clothed. Those are basic needs and necessities. And I know that people did what they had to do. But there were some people out there who had emergency funds in place who were able to say, you know what, though this doesn't feel good, though I may not be excited that I'm going to work and I'm not getting paid, they knew it eventually the government would open back up.
Yeah.
They knew they would get their back pay. And because they had planned, there was peace of mind. And when I think about emergency fund, that's the first thing that comes to mind for me is peace of mind. Because I remember, 10 years or so, I got laid off from a job. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. I was a little frustrated. I mean, I was a little bit stressed, but fortunately, I had a severance that was, substantial. And we had a savings. We had a pretty significant emergency fund in place. And the one thing it gave me was peace of mind because I was like, well, life won't change for quite a while. And I can take my time to explore opportunities to get the right opportunity for me. And so knowing that I had that to fall back on, that always, it was already in place. So clearly, emergency funds were important to us before that. But that always is a reminder of why we continue to do it. Because sometimes people may look and say, well, I've got this money saved up and now I can go and do this other thing. That's why we said what it's not for.
Well, and we're...
What it's not for, remember.
So our daughter is in the middle of struggling with that. Let's just be honest.
I know.
She is she has...
That's who we talking about.
She has an emergency fund. And she wrestles with having that amount of money set aside and not touching it. And this is why we have to reiterate it.
She is a spender too.
And there are people who are listening who are spenders.
Yes.
And that's the whole point is you have, that's why you got to protect your emergency fund. So sometimes you need it to be away from you. So Our emergency fund has an emergency fund.
That's true. That's true.
We actually have two.
That's true.
So we have money that is close by, and then we have money
to immediately.
Yeah.
But then there's money where it's gonna take
a couple days.
It's gonna take a few days to get to you.
So if it's a real emergency, you ain't gonna have that money tomorrow.
Right.
Right. And so
that's why we have, the close by fund and the, further away fund.
Yeah, I mean so it's interesting that like we do have both. I think it was sort of accidental that we actually had it, but I think it's kind of cool that we do have that because
it wasn't accidental. I knew what I was doing.
Okay.
I was always thinking about that.
But the way that we did it was because we had a better deal on an interest rate somewhere else.
Right.
And it just made sense to have the money over there.
It did.
Right. So we had a high yield savings account that we moved our money to because we're able to get more than what
better interest.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the simple things. Like people think about emergency funds. You can open up, a money market account, high yield savings, and you can do that either at your local bank or you can do that at, an investment company that you invest with. So it's not very difficult to do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to think about yourself. And if that money is close, like at a local bank or on your mobile app, and you can just press transfer mm-hmm. and it's there immediately, mm-hmm. is that where your emergency fund should be? Or should you put it somewhere else where you have to request the funds and it's going to take 2 or 3 business days to get to you? Because mm-hmm. those are safeguards in my mind.
So I will have to tell you, the last time I talked to our daughter, she said that she really wants to hit this milestone with her emergency fund. And so she gets excited about it, but she still wrestles because she wants to take a trip next year. And I'm like, I don't want you touching that money. Just because you hit the milestone doesn't mean now you get to dip into it for something else, right?
Right.
But it is.
Hit the milestone today and back at, tomorrow.
I know.
And back at the reset tomorrow.
And I'm glad she shares with us. And I'm glad that she is trying to work on this. But I think that is a struggle that a lot of people could have, right? Is the dipping into it and using it for something for which it is not intended.
Well, we have friends and they have kids that were government employees. Mm-hmm. And they went the month and a half. Well, one of them went the month and a half without mm-hmm. being paid. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that he felt differently having to go a month and a half. And our daughter would feel differently if she had to go a month and a half without pay. She'd be like, woo, I'm so glad I got this emergency fund because the stress of life would not be there even though you're going through a circumstance or situation.
So this is the thing. It is stressful enough that you have a car accident and you're figuring out how to get your car fixed and you got to pay the actual deductible to get it fixed. It's stressful enough when you lose a family member and you need to get a last minute flight to go be with your family.
You already had other things on your mind.
It's stressful enough, to have a medical emergency that costs you a couple $1,000s out of pocket, right? These things are stressful. But then to add on the additional financial stress that, oh my gosh, how am I even going to pay for this? Or the stress of putting it on a credit card and having to figure out how to pay it back next month or paying the interest on that money. And so the way that I see it is you are reducing the stress because life is going to give you some lemons. Life is going to throw some curveballs.
Life is going to be lifing.
It's going to life and you're going to be mad about it, right? Yep. And so if we can reduce the stress by saying we are protecting ourselves by having money set aside for what we know life is going to bring some crap. So we're going to protect ourselves so that we're not overwhelmed with all parts of the emergency that occurred.
Let's talk about some practical parts of it because I'm sure somebody is listening and there was a point in time when we were like, man, we can't afford to really be saving extra to create emergency fund. So I think one of the first things you have to do is you really got to start to assess your current situation to talk about where is there room to make modifications in your budget? Where is there room for things that are absolutely essential versus things that are non-essential? Because there's always something that is non-essential that you can pull back on. Even if you have a budget and you have like dining out, maybe you dine out less for a season while you build your emergency fund up. Maybe you get rid of Netflix, for a season and, read a book.
You know what? It costs us to read.
I mean, the library is free.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Thank you for that.
So
because I have Audible.
Right. The library. I knew that's what you were talking about. The library is free.
Yes, and you can get Audible books from the library
for free.
Yeah. You just gotta wait in line, and I'm not trying to wait in that line.
Yeah, but everybody's not in your situation, okay? But I think that's where people say, "Well, I can't, and I can't afford to." And my response is, you can't afford not to.
That part. Where's the mic so I could drop it? Doggone it.
Right. But that's the thing is like if people survive through this 44 days, this 1.5 months of no pay, I really hope and I pray that they will, when they get that first paycheck, they will pause and say, okay, we got to do something different.
Yes, and this is why getting out of debt is so important. Because, and I will tell our numbers, when we were in debt, we had 2 car payments and we had a student loan. Just those 3 things plus a couple of credit cards, nothing, the credit cards weren't super high.
They weren't out of control.
We didn't even have 5 figures on credit cards. So I think we had less than 6,000 or 7,000 on it between us. And so it wasn't a ton. But we had over $1,200 a month in payments. And so when we're talking about if you pay off the debt and then you can save even just
$1,200 a month.
Yeah, $1,200
$1,000 a month.
$1,200 a month is $14,000 in a year. So that's a pretty good emergency fund right there. Exactly, right? And so that's why getting out of debt, you're freeing up your most valuable asset, which is your income. Yep. And that makes it easier for you to accomplish this goal. So, and I'm not, that's our numbers from when we had the debt. Whatever your numbers are might be different. Nowadays I'm seeing 2 car payments for that, right?
Look.
So, just know that this is why we stress getting out of debt so heavily, is because that is so important.
When we were building our emergency fund, I remember that we cut back on a lot of things. We cut back on dining out, we cut back on entertainment, That was back when, I remember the Red Box days.
Oh my gosh. Blockbuster?
Well, I'm not even going back to Blockbuster. I'm just going back to Red Box, which I used to get so frustrated with Red Box.
Because they didn't have what you wanted.
Yeah, they didn't have what you wanted all the time. And then you go back and be standing out.
In the cold.
Outside, trying to return your movies or whatever. But whatever the case, we cut back. We didn't go to the movies. We went and we rented the movie. And now you can do downloads and every streaming service. Some people need to cut some of these streaming services seriously, because it's out of control.
It is out of control. And I find myself, I'm like, oh, I got to pay extra for this movie. I don't want to see it. Yeah. I don't need to see that movie. Somewhere in these streaming services, I got something that's already paid for.
Yes.
Why am I paying extra?
Yeah.
I saw something the other day. I'm actually listening to the book. I'm listening to the book. And then there's this movie, and I went to look for the movie, and they said $3.99. I was like, why I got to pay for this? I have the streaming service. So I said, let me go ahead and finish this book and see if in a month this Joker is actually free.
Movie.
I didn't want to pay $4. But here's why. I actually had a client.
You know what? That's what I appreciate about you. You finagle over a lot of stuff.
I do. And so you have your things, right, as well.
Definitely.
But I had a client, every time we would talk, their, $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $4? $3.99 was like, why I got to pay $ Netflix was going up by $5, going up by $5, going up by, so by the time, so Netflix is $20 or $18 or whatever it is, right? There was a point where
Netflix is
was
anymore,
$55. I was like, Netflix don't cost $55.
Why is Netflix $55?
Because they kept ordering other shows and movies.
But okay, wait a minute.
So
Does Netflix charge for other movies?
That's what I'm saying. The movie that they wanted to see was $3.99. It might have been Prime Video. I don't know which one it was.
I was gonna say. I thought everything.
So maybe it was Prime Video. It's one of them, okay? But they
had me confused for a second.
They paid an extra $35 because
above the subscription.
Above the subscription, because these were things that they wanted to see.
Nah, dog.
Right. So now I have done that before when I was like, I don't want to go to the movies and spend $50. So I'll spend $20 at home.
And then go and get some popcorn from the pantry with some drinks we already got at the house.
Because I cook it. I make some good popcorn, don't I, babe?
Now, you put that on camera.
I did.
Yeah.
I do.
Yours is better than mine.
Okay. But
you're the best.
But you can cook. You can pop some popcorn,
you're the best popcorn maker.
Because you know what I do?
You're the best.
I put it on the stove in some oil with the pan.
Yeah.
And I shake it and I make it on our gas stove in about less than 10 minutes. And then I put the butter on it.
Yeah, you the best. And you're the best popcorn maker.
And then I have the different kinds of popcorn salt, like the garlic and herb.
You
and the sweet and salty.
You know what? Maybe you should make some popcorn later.
We going on a date. I'm not doing it today. See, this is the thing, okay? You are trying to get me to make you some popcorn. Yeah, I know. Tomorrow. I'll get it for you tomorrow.
All right.
Okay. See, you know what? You can make some popcorn.
Look, I really hope that as people look back and reflect on the last month and a half and what has all transpired in their own life and their own situation, good, bad, and different, I think it's a lesson for all of us to be aware of and be cognizant that an emergency fund is not just a wish or an idea
or a nice
myth.
To have.
It's not a nicety, it's a necessity.
That's good.
You like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do that once in a while.
You a mess. You are a whole mess.
It's seriously, it's a necessity because if people take this as a learning experience, if they didn't have a good emergency fund in place, anything happens in the future, they'll be ready and prepared. And I think that's the whole point, is that we want people to be ready and prepared. So thinking back to this whole situation, what's your make it worth it to make this worth it for people?
I think that people should sit back and think to themselves, what if my company shut down and didn't pay me for 44 days?
Oof.
And what is the very first thing that you would do? And I'm going to throw an idea out there. I think everybody who listens to this and watches this should know how much it costs to run their household for an entire month. How much do all of your utilities, your household, your food, your gas for your car, and the necessities only, how much does that add up to? So you know what a fully funded emergency fund is. It is not your actual income. It is what your needed expenses are.
Living costs.
And what are you going to do first if that happened to you? Ask yourself that question.
Like that.
There you go. So hopefully we don't have to do this again. Like hopefully hopefully the government can figure their life out and come to some resolutions faster than that.
Right.
But I think that there were some needed lessons in that time period, and my hope is that the American people will be better off because we reflected on, what works and what's not working and how to do better next time.
I'm going to build off of what you just said, because I hope that after people do that, they decide that there is nothing that's going to prevent them from creating a successful emergency fund.
Yeah.
I hope people get upset with what that experience was, what it felt like, and decide they're going to do something totally different to offset any negative experience that could happen in the future.
Yeah.
And that they're going to say, nope, not me, not again. And they're going to create an emergency fund that will weather the storm should something like this happen.
Absolutely.
Again. Because though we hope that there are lessons learned, I am trepidatious in thinking that it may not ever happen again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just stay on alert. Keep your head on a what?
Swivel.
Okay. We like, what's going on?
What?
They're not gonna catch me. They're
What's
not
happening
gonna.
over there?
Hey.
Not me. So, but this was good. I hope people take it to heart, and if you take it to heart, then you'll put it to action. So.
Yeah. Until next time.
We're out. Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all of your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up to receive our free guide, The 7 Reasons Your Money Relationship Isn't Working with Your Partner, on ForBetterAndWorth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.